nomination since we did that a few hours ago. Okay. Oh, we do have to do roll call, so I was just joking about that part.
Miss Lamey,
Here.
Mr. Green, Mrs. Hanson, Mrs. Rutherford, Mrs. Fauntleroy, Mr. Harrell, Mrs. Martin, Mrs. Moore, Dr. Peterson, Mrs. Baker, Mrs. McCullum, Mrs. Herstius, Mr. Bro, Mr. Kuzan, Mrs. Rufino Gallagher.
Okay, do we have any board members that would like to recognize any visitors that have still stuck with us? No? Okay. Seeing none? Oh, yes, we do have.
I did want to take a moment to just, I know Ms. Baker had mentioned Ms. Sloan before. Ms. Frances Barker, who is the school that I was the principal at Lee Road, she donated the land for that school and was a longtime supporter of our school system. And former board member, Mr. Derman, his mother-in-law. And so she passed away last week, and her services will be next week. But just keep that family in your prayers. Her daughter also was a teacher, long-term teacher at Lee Road.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have somebody they want to recognize? Okay, one thing before we go to the first agenda item, Ms. Moore asked me to announce that she went to an event, and it was Governor Bell Edwards, and he declared February Early Education Month in Louisiana, so we just wanted to acknowledge that. Yep, so, and we thank you for all your work that you do with them, Ms. Gardner. Okay, so first up, approval of minutes from the committee as a whole meeting held December 1st. Do I have a motion? Ms. Moore and Mr. Bro, a second. Any comments by the public? I'm doing good so far. Questions from the board? All right, please vote.
Linda, yea or nay? Sorry. Wrong meeting. Dr. Peterson? I know, tell me how you want to vote. 11 yeas, 3 abstentions.
Okay, we have 11 yeas and 3 abstention. That passes. Okay, on to human resources. Our update from Mr. Alfonso.
Thank you, Ms. Lamey, Board, and Superintendent Jabbia. Before I get into my update, it's an honor for me to introduce our new risk manager, Mr. Brian Davis. He'll be available during items C and D, but at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Brian Davis. Thank you. He's really hit the ground running and doing some really good things with that department.
That's awesome.
Some real quick, hopefully it's quick, the human resources update. Right now, the staff, I want to take this time to really thank the HR staff, the entire staff, you know, because right now is a real time of year where we're getting cranked up for next year. And my first item is, I want to just introduce to you that we went out to schools and did projections for enrollment at each school. We did it by learning community. Ms. Niehaus handled the support staff. George Bodie and myself handled the regular education staff. And what we did is went out, projected enrollment, allocated staff for next school year. With that being said, Ms. Gardner and her staff kind of mirrored our schedule. So, for example, you know, if we were doing the Pearl River community, I started at 6th Ward, she started at Alton, and I worked down, she worked up. So what we did is we helped the schools build their master schedule. And today at 10 a.m., 10 to about 2, we met as a big staff with C&I, Ms. Gardner, and myself, Ms. Niehaus, and the Human Resources staff to do total projections, programs, itineraries, and different things like that. And we're going to present that budget impact to the superintendent shortly. Next thing I'd like to talk about is recruiting. Earlier in Mr. Superintendent's update, he mentioned at the Harbor Center, we had the St. Tammany Parish School Board Expo put on by Ms. Alexis and that group. We'll have a human resources presence there. We're gonna have a booth. Ms. Niehaus is going there with a member of the staff. And also, we're gonna attend at North Shore Technical College an IT summit. We're gonna have a booth there. The goal of that is to get something about us, about job openings, something in the hands of every person. And it may help a substitute, it may help us with a bus driver, it may help us with a teacher. Also, which we've seen to be pretty beneficial, is the superintendent also talked about his junior high nights where he's introducing all the different programs to seventh graders. We have a human resources presence there also. We set a table up there, and the goal is we put something in the hands of every parent that enters the door, and that's working out also. We also working with Meredith Mendez and her staff. We continue to work with her, rolling out with the newsletter, rolling out things on the website, and also you'll see a intense social media presence as we go into job fair. The next item I'd like to talk about, last meeting, President Brode asked us regarding retirements, which is a trend. So it's kind of ironic he asked that because in 2021, during the months of the December board meeting and the January board meeting, we had 28 retirements combined in 2021. We had 12 certificated staff, 16 support staff. In 2022, the same months, we had 17 certificated staff and 11 support staffs. Ironically, it's 28 both. So the trend's kind of equal. So I just wanted to, President Brode asked me to get that data. I'm gonna try to incorporate that in my data when I do retirements every board meeting. So thank you. Now, hiring, I'd like to talk about, we work in hard hiring. A couple things we're proud of. At semester, we hired 10 resident students from Southeastern, 10 new teachers, new employees. We're at about 60 percentile, we're approaching 60, not at 60, of retaining those people. So new teachers, new students that we hired. We have 76 new approved teacher applications in the queue that those people will be invited to job fair, and hopefully it's going to increase along the way. Also, the retiree return to work, we just hired another one this week, a new retiree. We now have 8 retiree return to works with that new law where they can draw both salaries, and that's been beneficial. The last thing I'd like to talk about is a substitute pool. You know that we as a staff, Ms. Niehaus, Belinda Pennis, and Megan Hurstis, they got together and allocated some staff because we had to rearrange some things to pick up these responsibilities when we took those responsibilities away from the principals. So that was a task in itself. Since January 2nd, we had 174 applications. As of February 1st, we have approved 126 of those applications. The ones that are missing, just please keep in mind, the ones that are missing, there's people out of state applied, people didn't update the right information. We're in constant contact with those people, and I think that's a pretty good ratio to have 126 out of 174 approved. Since January 2nd, we have cleared 88 new subs, so which is good. Now, that doesn't mean that 88 new subs are out there, running and working because, they can choose where they work and things like that, but it is 88 new people in the pool. Our fill rate fluctuates up and down from 55% to 85%, but today we're around 60%. So, there's some positive things going on with HR. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything in terms of hiring or what we're doing. There's a shortage in, across the nation, but we're doing what we can. Part of the budget impact, I'm going to introduce the superintendent. Part of that conversation we're going to have is leading into transfer fair, into job fair with the incentives and things like that. Are we going to move forward with those things? So that's all in the works. We're doing some good things, and I'm available to answer any questions. Or if you have any questions relative to substitutes, Ms. Niehaus is here also.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? We'll queue up Ms. Hurstis.
Nope, Mr. Brown.
Oh, nope, wrong one. Mr. Brow, sorry.
We went over substitutes, teachers, or I guess teachers were still close to 90 vacancies.
Between 80 and 90, yes, sir.
we're recruiting bus drivers. We have the class. You mentioned in the last meeting, I think we had 8 people in the class. We had a class in December. Are we actually, after the class, are we actually getting bus drivers out of those classes?
Well, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are getting, but, you know, bus drivers, the process, when they turned over to us, they become a certified sub. Okay, so they can choose to just be a substitute, or Dr. Jarrett could place them on a route.
Okay.
I don't have the number of exactly how many were approved, but I can get that for you. So them going directly onto a route, I don't have that number presently.
But we're not losing them. I mean,
Well,
how many are we losing?
I think.
I mean, I'll take a sub.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
that's positive.
I'm not totally sure, but I looked at the retirements. That's, bring before you next board meeting. I think it's 3, but don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty certain it's 3 retirees.
Okay. And,
Pretty
and,
accurate.
and we're able to fill them with the new classes. That's what I'm saying is not the ones we're losing, because we know we're going to lose some through attrition, but with the classes that we're doing, you know, out of the 8, do you expect all 8 to be driving buses next year or subbing? I mean, I'll take a sub.
That's the hope, sir.
Okay.
That is the hope.
All right. And how many of these classes have we had?
Dr. Gerald? Oh, he's gone.
Oh.
Well, they usually do 1 a quarter. That's
Okay.
the going rate. But when they have enough to do more, they'll do another one. But the deal is you want to do 1 class per quarter, you know. But if there's more people there, they'll do another.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I apologize. I thought Dr. Gerald's still here, but I forgot we switched meetings. I apologize.
I love all the little recap. Is there anywhere like on the website or anything like that that I can refer back to? Because I don't take shorthand. So I wasn't able
So
to
refer
write all
back
that
to like my
down.
notes.
Yeah, your little notes like, 8 people here and da-da-da.
I'll give you a copy. If you want.
Okay, yeah, that,
This
no,
is- this
yeah,
is
that,
just
that would
mine.
be great. Just
That'd
like
be
a
fine.
little, progress report would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming I can share this with the public, because I
Well-
mean, it's being filmed.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And Channel 13,
Yeah.
Channel 13 puts the meeting on website.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I just didn't know if you had like a little,
And
you know.
if you ever want to email me like this stuff, like the important information you want to highlight, I'll be glad
Yeah.
to email you back.
Okay,
and give
great.
you that information.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Alfonso.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that you have 126 approved and 88 new subs. I was taking notes. And I want to let you know that that is great. But what is the difference between the approved and the new subs? Is that like
Approved, yeah.
active, that they've already taken
So-
their first job or something? Is
No,
that?
the new subs would mean that they came through HR and they did all the process and they're good to go out in the field.
Okay.
The approved application, basically the application's approved and the HR staff has reached out to them and tried to set them
The
up to come
classes
in,
and
to
stuff?
come in and do the
Okay.
HR process.
Okay. So that's really, really good for me.
Yes, ma'am.
And, okay, and a 60% fill rate, I'm happy with that. So what you're doing is working. Thank
Well,
you.
I got to admit that I do lean on Ms. Niehaus, Megan Hurstis, and Belinda
The
Pennison.
team.
Yes, ma'am.
The-
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. So now we're going to move on to our class size report. Mr. Alfonso, back to you.
Before you have the class size report. I just want to highlight some things. Besides particular numbers at each school, please refer to the second page of the total bottom line of each grade level. You know, the numbers at each school do fluctuate based upon enrollment. You know, we do a lot at the beginning of the year and monitor as we go based upon October 1 numbers. Furthermore, the state requires 26-1 for pre-K through 3. We do 20-1. The state requires 33-1, pupil to teacher. For 4 through 12, we do our best to do 25-1. Now, if you go across the board, the state requirement, the mandate is system-wide. So I'm going to just please draw your attention to the system-wide rate that we do. Individual schools that may have a high number based upon what I just said, we address those things individually. So if you pay particular attention to the numbers at the bottom, the totals, we are at a pretty good rate right there in St. Tammany Parish Schools. And I'm here to answer any questions relative to this report.
I do have a,
So,
no, because there's more people
question,
after
too.
her.
Oh.
There was Mr. Bro. Where? He hit the wrong ball.
oh, you hit Ms. Hurst. Okay, well, Mr. Bro.
Anyway, my question is, how is this number calculated? Because it's pupils per student, per teacher, or teachers per pupil, whichever. Is that based on how many classes there are, or it's not, is it based on the number of teachers in the school? And if that's it, what if a teacher only teaches 4 classes? I mean, your numbers could be skewed. So is it on a class by class basis? Like I have a teacher in this classroom with this many students, and you average those, or?
It's by total enrollment. So if you say a kindergarten, you have 300 students in at that particular school, we would take that number and divide it by 20, and that would be the number of teachers you would get. But, really, we were working with a year prior. So say that school already had, 12 teachers, and I looked at it, and they need, I don't have a calculator for them, but they need to add a teacher, or they need to cut a teacher, or move a teacher. That's the process we do at projections. We kind of play a shell game at projections.
We have a lot of duties that teachers do other than teach in a classroom, but those teachers count in a teacher-pupil ratio.
As far as what, sorry?
I don't know, resource coordinator and principals, assistant principals, they're
The allotment that
they're
I.
certified, I know, but.
Yes, sir. The allotment I do, say for a particular elementary school, we do regular ed allotment, regular ed teachers, your guidance counselor, your assistant principal, and your librarian. That's part of your projected number that we allot to you.
So even though librarian may not be teaching in a classroom, your classes is based?
That doesn't count towards the number per teacher ratio. That's just part of their allotment. So we do it
Yeah,
by enrollment, and
Yeah,
then we allot the teacher.
I understand the allotment. I was wondering about how do you calculate the actual pupil to teacher ratio? They would not count because they're not teaching in a classroom.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And so it goes by each class with a teacher in it, and then you average it.
Yes, sir.
That's where I was trying to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Then total allotment. Yes, sir.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are these the numbers you use to determine if we're going to eliminate positions or add positions to schools?
The projections, yes, ma'am, that's what we do. We go and we go to the school and we'll see, if they're gonna add a teacher or need to cut a teacher. Now, generally what happens, we absorb them at the school by attrition. So if there is a severe decrease in enrollment, we have to cut someone, and it's, say, a teacher retired, then we just won't replace that retired teacher and keep that teacher at the school. That's the goal, not to move. The goal is not to move people, to absorb them at the school.
Do we have any indication if our student population will increase next year?
We are seeing some increases, particularly.
Like as the effects of COVID are starting to,
We
really
leveling
go
off in that regard, yes, ma'am. But we are seeing some increases, obviously, in the Salmon learning community and the Mandeville learning community. Areas in between are pretty stagnant.
So Mandeville is growing.
Not particularly Mandeville High, mostly Madisonville, but then which translates to Mandeville High eventually. But it's not as high as last year because we allotted some teachers last year, and those principals did a magnificent job. They don't really keep vacancies in that learning community. And so we're not adding a lot this year, but they do have a slight increase in Madisonville, Mandeville, yes.
So I know a lot of schools like their lower ratios, in comparison to, let's say, 6 or 7 years ago. Do you think that we are going to be cutting positions at schools?
We're going to do our best not to cut right now, but I'm just, in my mind, in my opinion, in the future, it's a conversation I'm going to have with the superintendent to where we have to look at ratios if we continue to have vacancies like we do. But, You know, and I'm not sugarcoating this, but I just have to say this. I talked to a lot of personnel directors across multiple parishes. We're in much better place than a lot of places in terms of vacancies.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I want to address the number, this particular average number for per grade level and then average across the bottom. I know we do two separate types of projections, one for students with exceptionality and one with regular enrollment. Is that then combined to give this average?
Yes.
Okay, so my
This would be,
observation-
I'm sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Ms. Hanson, but if you take this right here, this is October 1 numbers. That's inputted into our
With
database.
both sets, so to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, my observation has been that because some schools have more students with exceptionalities, and some schools, let's say, may have a reduced numbers class because they're the only one in that area that has reduced numbers, so they're being assigned from another area that, doesn't have reduced numbers. So it could possibly skew it because you have a large number of students with exceptionalities that have small classrooms, but then you could have, let's say, a regular education, let's say, English 1 class that may have 28 in it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there anything we can perhaps look at doing? Because okay.
I'm glad you're asking, because
Okay.
that's the conversations we had today and what we did today. Ms. Gardner and her staff, after the projections, everybody else left, and Ms. Niehaus and HR and myself, and Ms. Gardner and her staff stayed in. And what Kim and her staff did is she did a lot of movement of programs to combine, to base it upon transportation, to get people back to, where they're supposed to be going to school based upon programs. So we did a lot of movement, and it's not approved yet, but the movement that she did will benefit the system. And I'm sure the superintendent will fill you guys in at a later date on that.
Well, I mean, my observation in being to a few of the schools in my geographic area is that, one school, we allot administration based on that number. We allot teachers based on regular students with exceptionality, but they may have more programs like, that are higher needs than, say, a school that doesn't have those programs, but they're to some extent using a similar calculation, other than what y'all did today, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I do commend y'all on doing that because I do think that does make a difference when you look at the details of the picture.
Yeah, Ms. Gardner created a lot
Thank
of
you,
work
Ms.
for me
Gardner.
today.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner. That's a double thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alfonso.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson.
Ms. Rufino Gallagher.
What is our ratio, or what is the state recommended ratio for pre-K?
20-1.
And do we have those numbers of what our classes are? Nope. 22
Oh, I'm
to
sorry,
1?
I'm not
Or
thinking of
20 to
those.
2, you said? Okay. Do we have numbers on what our pre-Ks are right now? It's not on this list, that's what I'm asking. It
Yeah,
starts at kindergarten.
I don't allot that, that's.
Okay.
I don't have that.
Okay.
I can tell you that we have pretty much they're all full. Now, if it's a blended class, if it's a special education class, it's 16 to 3. A LA4 class is 20 to 2. But I can give you the numbers of what they are, but pretty much we're full. We
Okay.
have waiting lists at some places.
Okay. And then for you, Mr. Alfonso, I know there's a fluctuation. I talked to one of the principals at one of my schools, and they're looking to cut one of the positions over there. If say, Ms. McCurley, Dr. McCurley is the one who gets cut. When the school year starts again, if that number jumps up for whatever reason, is she the first person you allow to go back to that school?
Well, all that's governed by collective bargaining, okay? So technically, what happens is we try to absorb it at the school first, okay? If there's a cut, we go through that, it's called the involuntary transfer process, where the principal goes and tries to get volunteers. If not, it goes by seniority, and there's a process at the school level. And then we'll go to that person, the person being cut, and present them the vacancy list, and they can choose based upon their certification where they can go. There is a provision in there, and I don't want to quote it, but there is a provision in there where they can return. There is a provision in collective bargaining.
If that school does, for whatever reason, increase, and then we really
Yeah.
need that person back, because you do these before registration happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you this also, is that we do head counts, and Dr. Tillman in HR is responsible for that, and we monitor head counts, and Mr. Bouillon gives us electronic hits October 1, so we're constantly monitoring, and we add positions if we need to at the later date, and we did that this year.
Ms. Moore?
Turn off, cancel, nothing. Okay. All right. I guess this one goes to you, Mr. Javia, and I'll be the one that throws the wrench into this. Are we considering redistricting at all for some of our schools that are so overcrowded? Whereas, and I, being in the system a long time, I know that things were just decided and they just become that way because we've always done them, but certain districts were not supposed to go to certain schools, and they do, and they continue. I just wondered, because of our, in certain areas that we are
We are
overcrowded.
considering redistricting, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to take a hard look at some companies. I met with the board officers. We had put out for an RFP to have a company evaluate our districts
Perfect.
and look at lines and see if we could maximize our schools that we have by adjusting lines properly that would maximize our schools or reduce numbers of
Yeah,
schools
well,
that
we
need to
have
be
room in
reduced.
some.
Correct.
We won't do it to you right now, Mr. Alfonso, not after all the work you did. Since Ms.
But
Gardner
that's
already
gonna-
gave
that's
you all
gonna
this
take-
work.
Whoever the board chooses to do that RFP, it's going to be a heavy lift. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. Yes, ma'am.
If I could just ask really quickly, so one is a certain grade at one of my schools, and another one's one that I've heard from teachers about numbers, and both of those are the highest on those two things in that one particular grade, okay? So is that, I know that for next year, you would probably be looking to add something or move stuff around, but we don't do anything at this point in the year. I mean, we're already short-staffed, so there's
it's-
really not much you could do anyway.
And I'm going to tell you, what's
mean,
what's
I'm
going
very
on here is
sensitive.
some of those schools have a need where, say if they had a third grade class where it's at 23, okay? So you have a third grade class that's 23, the principal thinks it's manageable.
Got it.
So they use the teacher, because the allotment's correct. So let me
Right.
be clear on that. The allotment's correct where it'd be
She
20
would-
to 1.
I got
She
it.
used them in another area to
Yes.
help the entire school, like an
Got it.
instructional
Yep.
coach or
Or
an
did-
interventionist,
okay.
or administrative assistant
Assistant,
that's
that's what I
helping
was
with
gonna say.
discipline.
Okay.
So the allotment's correct, but the principal's deciding that, hey, my third grade, I
get
got
it.
great teachers.
We
and
can
they,
do this.
You know, and we below the state average, and she can manage her staff accordingly.
I get that. The only one that I see that has any concerns, but I trust the principal completely, but is kindergarten, because I know,
Yeah.
like with behavior stuff. Okay. All right, thank you so much. That was an excellent report.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we're moving on to C, monthly risk management report. Mr. Alfonso.
The monthly risk management report is before you, and Mr. Davis is here to answer any questions.
Concerning that report, concerning that report, first of all, Mr. Davis, that was an incredible report. The data was how many times you can present that data to us. But my question, well, I guess it's not even really a question. You just went up there, so I appreciate you. But one of my biggest concerns is the SWE population. So if you're taking SWE, and if I read that correctly, I'm just asking you to confirm that we had 21.2 workers' comp claims per 100 employees in SWE, correct?
Since we don't have it up and I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that's correct.
Okay. And then 68% of that 21.2% is workers' comp claims in regard to student contact.
Well, that's specifically for paras, if I'm remembering that correctly, in that category.
Okay.
Sweet paras.
Okay. And I just can't thank you enough, and I know many people on this board are on board with this. This is the kind of data and reporting that we need, because I can't say this enough in terms of, I believe with my whole heart that teachers are doing everything that they can, administration is doing everything that they can. Central office is doing everything that they can, but I think the big picture is that we have a problem with our laws, and that until we're able, and I have a very special place in my heart for sped kids. I genuinely do. I just don't think, no matter how much training or how many people we put in a classroom or on a bus or whatever, we have some sick babies in our community. And we're not equipped. We're not equipped to deal with some of the problems that they can. I don't know how we're going to fix it. I think we have to solicit legislation to change, because our hands are tied in terms of people getting hurt and the discipline that we experience. I think we're going to have to, I don't know how we're going to do it, but I think that we have to, solicit the Department of Health and Hospitals, the Department of Corrections, whoever we need to work with to make sure that we remain an educational institution and not more of a hospital or correctional institution. And I don't even know how we're going to go about that. I know that the LODE was going to have a legislation committee meeting for us. But the bottom line is, thank you for the data. And if you can just keep it coming and keep it as clean as it is. I mean, I've never seen reports like this. I've only been on the board for 2 years, but I think it's huge, and I think it's data that we really need to keep track of and see what we can do to help some of our people out, because even our kids are struggling too, the ones that need these types of services. So I want to just say thank you.
You're welcome. Kudos to my department and folks in my department, as well as communications, who helped make this look very pretty too. So I'm not the pretty person, I'm the data person, but I was able to confirm in my draft report here, 68% of total accidents involving para-educators for 2022 were a result of student contact. So it was paras.
A way to get things worked out. But thank you very much for it. I think it's amazing data.
You're very welcome.
Yes, Gia and I were speaking to you earlier, and when I saw the data, I looked at it last night. Amanda and I were on the phone last night looking at all this data, and we were very impressed with all your charts and graphs and everything. But it is disheartening, like Gia said, to see that 95 of our faculty have been injured by student contact. That's upsetting to me as a teacher. And I know of teachers who have been injured and have left the profession because of it. We have to do something. I don't know what the answer is, but like she said, we're going to have to go to Baton Rouge and do something for our teachers to help them and help the students. Some students really need more than what they're getting in a classroom. We're not the fix-all. We would love to be, and we love our students, but we're going to have to do something to help our teachers too.
Understood.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Moore?
Yeah. Just press it. Mr. Davis,
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
so glad to have you. I was also in the conversation and was very impressed for the hiring staff. I think we did a great job, so looking forward to have you on the team. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here.
Mr. Bro?
I guess I'm Mr. Bro. So yeah, I guess we should have switched seats, but anyway, should I lower my voice? Should I not? But these what you're reporting is what the administration reports to you.
This data, I started January 2nd of 2023.
No, I'm just
So-
asking, so this data is from what administration or the schools actually report to you?
The data is collected from our incident, it's a variety of forms, but primarily from incident reports that are put into our database and then tabulated from there. I take it, manage it, massage it into the reports that we need to make sense out of it all.
Okay.
So I did not collect the data from the prior year. Obviously, I'm part of that this year, though.
The schools submit those reports, Ms. Hurstius.
Who say, oh, okay.
The schools submit
Yes.
those reports.
I'm sorry, who's that?
The schools
The
submit,
schools, okay.
they submit those reports.
But there
Yes.
could be, say, an issue of, some administration saying, oh, don't report the incident?
Are you talking about at the school level?
Yes.
We're getting this routinely.
You don't think
I don't
so?
see
Because
that.
I have evidence of that. Okay, because I'm just making sure that, because these numbers, there are a lot of teachers and other people that may be afraid of reporting incidences from, getting, retaliation from administration. So I just want to make sure, though, that these reports may be accurate. Wow, all of a sudden, I'm getting all kind of huffs. Okay.
So would there be any reason that that would happen? Like, is there any reason, are the schools docked if they have more incident reports than, is a school's performance score affected in any way? So I guess I'm trying to wonder, would there really be any reason for someone out of school to not report?
I can't imagine what that
Okay.
would be. I mean, the data is coming directly to my office. It's not going anywhere else. We're
And it's not
accumulate-
used in any school performance score or anything like that? Score?
It really, other than going to the board, to the best of my knowledge, that's all it's used for.
Okay,
And
then
as far
then
as I
Michelle.
know, there isn't
ask-
any.
Ask whoever talked to you about that, because if there seems to be no reason that.
There's
that
some
would-
people that need to, say things anonymously. So, because they are in fear of retaliation.
But they'll talk to you though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But what I'm
We can
saying
look into
is,
that, because I haven't heard it, but if that's somebody talking to you, then we need to definitely look into it.
well,
We
I
can do
know,
that.
and that's what, okay. So
Thank you, though.
obviously, we'll do that somewhere else.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Martin. That was her. Ms. Fauntleroy. I know you first.
Thank you. Just to help Ms. Hurstius understand, I was a former principal. There's no retaliation. It's simply when there's a form, when any incident, whether it's child-related or whether you just trip over a rock or any incident, anything where you might be injured on the job, you might have just twisted your ankle, we just simply fill out a report form and we send it into central office, and that's where I assume he is collecting his data. But there's no, it's just a record-keeping tool. And also for liability purposes to see if, to investigate if we were at any fault in the incident. So, there's no threat of retaliation. If they choose not to report it, I guess they just didn't want it documented, but there's no reason not to. They're instructed to, all employees are instructed to within 24 hours of the incident.
So is this Ms. Hurstis or Mr. Bro? Mr. Bro, okay, I just want to make sure. Mr. Bro.
Thank you. Are we still on monthly risk management report? Because I thought that's what we were on.
That was,
We
that
went
missed the
through
boat
that
a long
one.
time ago, Mr. Bro.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, I wanted to commend you also on this trend data report. And when I first started looking at it, I said, wow, I really need percentages. I look a little bit further, and there are the percentages. It's exactly what we need. It was a thorough analysis, and it was well done, well put together, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Once a lion, always a lion.
Okay, next up, we're going to move to, thank you very much for the report. It was absolutely awesome, as everybody said, and we appreciate you. I'm glad you're on the team.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, now we're moving on to agenda item 4A, curriculum instruction updates. Dr. McCurley. I thought that's what we just did.
Negative, we skipped the
just kinda-
monthly risk management report.
Okay, I'm on that. Ms. Lamy, Mr. Javia, board members. From the CNI department, our first agenda item is to recognize National School Counseling Week, which will include a resolution, and Mr. Morris is our supervisor here to present that.
Chairman Lammy, board members, superintendents, and guests. The school counseling profession is 100 years old and has evolved over the years, shaped by various economic, social, and educational forces, guided by the work of many individuals. By embracing knowledge from the past, we can learn how school counseling has evolved from a position to a service. School counselors are highly educated, professionally certified individuals who lead, advocate, and collaborate for all student success in school and addressing their career needs. An integral part of the total education system, school counselors help students form healthy goals, mindsets, and behaviors. With the aid of a school counselor, students learn to develop effective collaboration and cooperation skills, to practice perseverance, to develop time management, study skills, and to learn self-motivation and self-direct habits. National School Counseling Week is always celebrated the first week in February and highlights the monumental impact school counselors can have in helping students achieve success and plan for a promising future. We have a special tribute tonight honoring our school counselors. STPPS TV has produced a video highlighting a few of our school counselors. Let's watch it now.
So being a school counselor is like juggling while running through fire. So you plan a day, but you never know what it's actually going to look like because your day depends on the kids' days.
I like to call myself the soft place for the kids to land. So I'm not giving them too many demands. I am the person that is here to listen to them.
We work in conjunction with the mental health provider and try and guide them through this adolescent time, because in that age group, they're trying to find their identity, you know, who they are, what group they fit in.
We're just trying to prepare them for life in general, and we just have to meet them where they are.
Make your choices. We are going to start off at a whisper, okay? In one of the lessons that I do, we focus on self-control. We focus on controlling their bodies, controlling their voices, using nice words. So we put into action the things that we have discussed in previous lessons.
We have children that come from hard places and difficult things, and we need to consider those children in the classroom. So teaching things like respect, kindness, empathy, they need that as they go forth into their school career.
The junior high, that 12 to 15 year age gap is probably one of the most difficult moments in their lives or in anyone's life. So we have 2 years to form a foundation and to open those conversations that they're going to start having more of and more in depth. We can start future focusing now when they're in 7th and 8th grade and show them what they can think about or at least gear their interest towards that might pay benefits in high school.
We try to help students understand what their future opportunities are. So we tell them it's very common for career choices to change over the years. And so just that's, again, why we try to give them a broad base of opportunities so that they can have many things to pull from as they move into the future.
We want all of our students to dream big. We want them to take the time to imagine themselves doing important things, special things, and we do whatever we can to support that. We build them up, we give compliments, we give hugs, we give love.
We want to support them so that they have the awareness that they can be successful and that they are successful.
So you can't come in thinking that you are going to change the world, but each little change that you make for those kids, you may not know it, but it does change their world.
There we go.
I would like to recognize any counselors in the audience if they're still here. I don't think she's a counselor.
Stamina.
Okay, so now we have a resolution. Is that okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That Ms. McCollum is going to read for us. Thank you.
And the resolution reads, whereas school counselors offer unique contributions to the students of St. Tammany Parish Public Schools, and whereas through a collaborative effort between the school, home, and community, school counselors help students to identify their interests and abilities and to enhance productivity, dependability, self-expression, self-control, accurate decision-making, and conflict resolution skills in order to achieve quality learning and lifelong success. And whereas the St. Tammany Parish School Board recognizes that school counselors are vital members of the education team that can help all students in the areas of academic achievement, personal, social, and career development. And whereas school counselors incorporate leadership, advocacy, and collaboration in order to maximize student achievement throughout all of our schools. And whereas school counselors use a comprehensive program providing instruction, support, and caring at every level and in high schools, they use the transference and development of these skills in order to help students achieve success as they develop academically, personally, and socially. And whereas the actions taken on a daily basis by school counselors help to ensure students become productive and responsible members of society. And now therefore be it resolved that the St. Tammany Parish School Board hereby acknowledges National School Counseling Week is February 6th through 10th, 2023, and applauds the everyday efforts of school counselors working in St. Tammany Parish Public Schools. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the official minutes of this board and that a copy be sent to every school in the St. Tammany Parish Public School System.
Thank you, Ms. McCollum. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution? Ms. Gallagher, and a second?
Unanimous second.
Unanimous second. Okay. And I'm just going to give a shout out to a former school counselor that I worked with forever, because school counselors also counsel fellow coworkers. Everybody ends up in their office listening, and the counselor's always there to listen. So Stacy Boynton, thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on. Oh, no, we got to do public. Oh, yeah, we're not moving on. Okay. Do we have, I should have waited for my thing, sorry. Any public comments? Yes. I was going to say your first name, and I forgot your last name, so I'll wait. Stephanie. Underwood. Miss Underwood.
Federation. I'm really grateful for the school counselors, and I know that I've always taught inclusion. So I've worked with school counselors and MHPs. And I know that we've recognized MHPs before, but is the school counselor week still MHPs as well? Maybe we should add them to the resolution. Just an idea. Was it separate?
I remember reading a resolution. I personally read it, but I could not tell you when that was, so I don't know the answer. Absolutely. We appreciate you, MHPs.
We're getting worn out.
I know. Been here 5 hours. Did you vote? Yeah. Oh.
That resolution passes unanimously. Now we're moving on to item 4. Nope, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Right?
C.
Yeah, 4C. Recommended acceptance of grades K-8 science textbook adoption. Mrs. Fuller.
All right. Good evening, chairmen. Oh, I'm sorry. I was ready to go.
So I was going to say that the next agenda items for consideration is the adoption of math and science textbook and materials. The Louisiana Department of Education states that selecting and implementing a high-quality curriculum in the classroom has the biggest impact on the quality of student learning. To do so requires the curriculum to be connected to the standards-aligned assessments students take and the training teachers receive. When these three pieces, the curriculum, the assessments, and professional development work together, students are more likely to reach the expectation of the academic standards. We look forward to joining the top-performing school districts in Louisiana in implementing high-quality materials to support teachers' instruction and students' acquisition of performance standards, of which they will be evaluated in the spring. However, if we don't get behind a high-quality curriculum and materials have not gone through the extensive state vetting process, we run the risk of inconsistent standards development, which could negatively impact students' learning and assessment preparation. Our goal is to ensure that all students have access to the same instructional materials and resources that meet the rigor of the standards, and teachers will continue to exercise creativity in addressing their students' needs. As our schools and district performance scores result from assessments aligned to Louisiana student standards, utilizing LDOE's high-quality materials puts us in a better position to grow students and ultimately support the economic development in the district as families continue to move here for the school system. By voting in favor tonight, we will be able to honor our timeline for preparing teachers with professional development and having materials in teachers' hands to begin planning for the upcoming school year. Ms. Fuller is going to share the science results with you and then followed by the math results.
All right. Good evening, Chairman, Superintendent Javia, board members, and members of the public. This evening, I'd like to present to the board recommendations for this year's textbook adoption for K-8 science. Our instructional materials were put on display for review for all participating schools, as well as our public viewing locations in Slidell, Brooks Educational Complex in the Covington area, Harrison Curriculum Center. Viewing opportunities were available for teachers, parents, and the community to evaluate materials. To ensure all instructional materials are judged based on content and instructional value, evaluation rubrics were used that address the 6 major criterion categories: 3-dimensional learning, phenomenon-based instruction, alignment and accuracy, disciplinary literacy, learning progressions, scaffolding and support, and usability. For the K-5 science adoption, the K-5 science amplified received 78% of teacher votes. 232 teachers elected Amplify, and 65 teachers selected PH Science Great Minds. For grades 6-8, Amplify Science received the highest percentage of teacher votes with 65%. 55 teachers selected Amplify, and 29 teachers selected Activate Learning. Estimated cost of recommended instructional materials. I've provided a breakdown of cost based on teachers' vote to adopt Amplify Science for grades K-8. What is included in these prices are the grade level science digital teacher license, digital student access, investigation kits for each unit, formative and summative assessments, and student investigation notebooks for a 6-year period. There is also a Spanish version available. Shipping rate will be at 3.4%, which is $207,143.80. So the total would be $6,284,000 and $284,825.90. Based on majority of teacher votes, we recommend the adoption of Amplify Science for grades K-8.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. Let's just see, do we have a motion? Okay. Ms. Hanson, and we're going to talk about it but we still have to do the motion first. Do we have a second? Okay. Ms. McCollum? Okay, and do we have any public comments? Ms. Underwood?
I'm just gonna move my stuff.
Okay, so Ms. Fuller, I know that you said everything that was involved, but I want to make sure that, are we getting everything that's available, or are we not getting some stuff? Because just for example, like a third grade teacher next year is going to have a new math, a new science, a new social studies. They have a leader in me. So there's a lot of new things that they're having to do for next year. So I just want to make sure we're making it as easy as possible for them.
Do you want me to answer that question before the next public?
Answer that, because I'm
Okay.
interested too.
Yes. So yes, with that, and you can tell with the price, it's like full investigation kit. So they are by unit, so they have everything that they need for that unit. Also, we will have professional development to help support them with unpacking and understanding that new instructional support. And also, just so you know as well, many schools are departmentalized, so some are just going to be learning the science, some will be having to learn science and math and other things, but not all schools teach all 4 content core areas.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for the question, Ms. Underwood. Okay, do I have any board questions? Please queue up. Okay, Ms. Rufino Gallagher?
I have a question. So you didn't mention it, you said some soft copy of something. Is there no textbook?
So what it is they have the investigation notebook, so it kind of serves as like a workbook. A lot of times, we don't have just standard hardcover textbooks anymore, so it's a variety of that with online resources as well.
Okay, so it's, say the one that's K through 5, there's one 6 through 8. So that kindergartner is keeping the same book for 5 years, or they're getting
No,
a new
ma'am.
book each year?
Yes, for grade level.
So that $6,200,000 and whatever $1,000 you had, each child gets a new book every year with all their
Or for-
investigative kits inside of it.
Yeah, for consumable.
I'm cracking up because I'm looking at you and I see heads over here all nodding. And
Oh,
yes, right
sorry.
here. They're like, yep.
And so if you, I don't know, well, you can't see it now, but how I did the estimated, these are like our current student numbers. And what I did for K and 1, because it's hard for me to base off of what our pre-K numbers will be, because not every student goes to pre-K. And so I just estimated kind of where we were. And so that's why the number for K and 1 are the same. And then I basically did it for over a 6-year time, and that would be the price per student.
Ms. Rutherford?
Okay, I have a question. Ms. Moore and I went to the Harrison Center to go look at the books. And Amplify wasn't there when we went. They didn't have all the stuff available. So I went to Lake Harbor and looked at the materials. The books did not align with our standards, and it was a national standards because 6th grade does not teach traits and reproduction. And so it was very difficult. I heard from several teachers in different schools. I have friends across the parish, and they were saying, well, this isn't even what we teach. Why are we looking at this? And I said, I don't know. So, because I didn't know the answer. I did get an email from you this evening explaining that part to me. But the teachers were concerned because they were looking at stuff that didn't align. Although I have some teachers here this evening who told me they do like the curriculum that they're seeing, okay? Now that they know that it's going to be aligned to Louisiana standards, okay? I do have a question about, does this money include, or who is going to pay for all of the hands-on exploration things that they're going to need for science experiments? Like, are they going to pay for the Q-tips and the cotton balls? Who's going to provide all those types of things when they're doing these experiments?
That is with the investigation kit. So it comes I believe most of the kits are for 32 students. A lot of the things are not consumable. The things that are, it's for 2 uses, and then we replenish what we need out of those kits.
Okay.
We pay for that as a district.
A district will pay for that, what they need. So the teachers are going to make a list of what they need for?
Well, I think that there's a process within the kit. Typically, you have, basically, it's an inventory of the kit, and then it's what needs to be replenished. And we'll have a process on how that's reported and stuff to us, so we make sure everyone gets what they need.
Thank you.
So what about?
Mr. Green?
Thank you, Ms. Lamy. It just kind of builds on Ms. Underwood's comment. We are putting a lot of different, the science of reading and Eureka Squared and some other curriculum, some new things. Are we providing additional stipend-based training or professional development for these, or, outside of what we would call contracted hours to do some extra work here? Because it's a lot of material.
Yes, so based on board approval, we would have dates. What we try to do, because we find that having PD outside of the school day, it isn't great as far as participation sometimes. So we try to build it into the school day, provided that we have subs. And so a lot of times, let's say for math, we have 4 trainers coming that will serve 4 different half-day positions. So that way schools can help flip-flop with the subs as far as like one teacher will go, come back, then the other teacher will go to help support that. But we will offer summer opportunities as well. And then again, in the fall.
And is the PD administered through Amplify reps, or is it somebody?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It'll be through their reps.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Next, Ms. Baker?
I don't know that anything can be done with this, but $200-and-something thousand for shipping, I feel like I want to go get a U-Haul and go get it
I
myself
know.
for $200-and-something thousand.
Well, you'd really be upset if it, what you heard it was originally. At first, I was quoted 12.08%, and I was like, I didn't know you could negotiate with shipping and handling. I have learned that now. And so when I went back to the rep and I said, I have other tier 1 vendors too that are offering 3.5%, they were able to come down to 3.4%.
So they have their own trucks and deliver the stuff here, or are they third partying it? Because if they're third partying it, it seems like we could do that for a lot less. I don't know that that's true or accurate. I'm just saying that's a lot of money. And I know
Yes.
there's nothing you can do about it.
And these
but-
are also really big kits, but I do feel way more comfortable with the 3.5. I think that, or it's 3.4 for them. That does seem to be standard when I've reached out to all the vendors that were participating in anticipation for tonight's results to see what the cost of the materials would be and the shipping. And that was pretty
Crazy, huh? Thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, I guess the handling
Oh, well,
part
wrap
is what
that
I
stuff.
can negotiate. Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Sure. I saw it said that this curriculum is available for 6 years.
Yes, ma'am.
So that
the life of the
recurring
adoption.
price it'll be the same for each of the 6 years, right? 'Cause
No,
you
no,
need-
no, ma'am. This is the total that should be for the
Thank
6
you.
years.
I
Yes,
feel-
ma'am.
I feel better.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you, we'll make our own damn books.
Yeah.
Mrs. McCollum?
I'm just following up on the comment by Ms. Rutherford in terms of teachers commenting that it didn't match the standards. In order to be a tier 1
Yes.
curriculum resource, then it does meet more of the standards than any of the others. Is that correct?
Oh, it meets more than that. It is
Yes.
a high-quality curriculum. And so what Amplify did is when they sent their materials, they had a letter stating that it is, they have the Louisiana standard correlations. And so that is where I think the confusion was if they didn't have these readily available to see. But these were all produced with the kits. And so when the investigation kits will come for sixth grade, it'll be for everything that they need for sixth grade Louisiana standards. We're not gonna have to mix match, because that was some of the concern, was that some of those standards and the national standards were really seventh grade Louisiana standards. And people thought they were gonna have to piecemeal and stuff like that. I have been assured that they have the Louisiana version to make sure that it is in total, well, they wouldn't have gotten the review process to be tier one or got qualified if they did not. So they do
Yes.
meet this, our Louisiana standards.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Rutherford?
Yes, thanks for clarifying that, because it would have been a lot easier for the teachers to view it and get their recommendations and their concerns addressed if they would have been looking at the book that was the Louisiana book that we would be using, the Louisiana information. My other question is, when will we get this? When will they have an opportunity to be trained? Will it be in enough time for them to do all this? I'm concerned for teachers, like they said, with all these curriculums being brought, it's like we're dumping and dumping and dumping new curriculum every time on these teachers. And it seems like it's all at one time. I mean, I know teachers who teach science and math and have a homeroom they teach social studies too. So they actually gonna have 3 new curriculums next year they're gonna have to teach.
And one thing that's great about the math and the science, the standards aren't changing.
Right, the standards aren't
Right,
changing,
and so
but the
that-
material that you're
the
using
material,
is changing.
And then the Ready Classroom, it will be a little different. The science, yes, that's going to be their biggest change. And of course, social studies, the state standards have changed.
Right.
They do not necessarily have a curriculum yet for us. We are still collecting those resources and waiting on the state. So yes, it is a big lift. There, make no mistake about it.
Right, and when
But
is,
we are
when is
gonna-
this, I'm sorry, when is the state gonna give us that information so we can look at that stuff for social studies and then look at a curriculum for that?
It's projected in the spring.
And
So
we're gonna get that before school starts?
We're waiting for that, we're hoping, but we're at the mercy of the state on that. But as far as this and materials, it's dependent on the vote of the board. And if it does get approved, I have my numbers, we're ready to order.
Okay, when the state gives us funding for this, how much of funding does the state give to cover this cost?
Okay. So with the science, because it's a new tier one curriculum that we're using, it does not cover all of our schools. It covers our schools that are in need of support. And so that number, let me get my prices, is going to be, that's not counts. Pricing, here we go. That is going to be $663,392. But with that, I know we're not to math yet. We have asked, we haven't gotten this money yet, but we have requested through what is called the super app for the math, $1,433,886. The reason why there's a difference for math, if you are implementing a new tier one curriculum, they will help support all of those schools that are doing that. With science, that is not the case. It is just going to be particular schools that they have deemed that need support.
Okay, my other question is, there were only 2 choices, okay, for science. Out of all of the curriculum that's out there, our state gives us 2 to choose from.
Well, ma'am, it's that, not that they gave us 2, those are the only 2 that
tier one.
qualified for a tier 1 curriculum,
That
that a high quality
blows me
curriculum.
away, that they only give us 2.
Well, I think they would approve more had vendors met the qualifications to be tier 1, deemed tier 1.
Has anyone looked into how much money that these companies have given to Bessie or LDO, to people who are,
I have not personally
You know,
done that,
just
but-
wondering? Okay.
The one thing I
You
did
have
look
Tammy,
into.
Tammy, have you? And, I mean, yeah, they contribute to these campaigns, so it's kind of, that's kind of.
Well, I will say, though, the advisory board that reviews this curriculum, it is teachers, like us, we have teachers in St. Tammany Parish that have served on some of those boards. They also do it at a voluntary basis. Like, they do not get paid to do it, and it is a lot of work to go through that curriculum. So that's the only, thing that makes me feel comfortable that they're not on anyone's paycheck.
Okay, I'm
you
just
know?
glad that I have some teachers who are excited about it, so that's a good thing. Thank you.
Very quickly, I just do want to say that, I had the supervisors look into the highest performing districts, the top 10 highest performing districts, and every one of those districts use one of these books that is in front of you tonight, every one of them. No one has gone outside of the Tier 1 curriculum because, as Dr. McCurley and Katie have stated, they are high-quality materials. So I wanted to make sure that, the Zacharys and the Centrals and the highest performing schools, that they weren't doing something different than what we're trying to do here, so.
Mrs. Martin?
Thanks. So as a non-educator, just from a parent's perspective, it seems that we could do this whole process in a better way, meaning, or some of it just doesn't make sense to me. So we have 38,000 students roughly that are going to be affected possibly by one of these new curriculum choices, right? And we've asked our teachers to, at some point in the middle of their day, over maybe 2 weeks, to go and look at these materials, which they probably don't have time to do. And we're only going to give them 2 options that are Tier 1. And this is not us, this is Bessie, the state, whatever, et cetera. But I can't be convinced that there's only 2 Tier 1 options. Like, in the entire United States, there are only 2 publishing companies that meet Tier 1 requirements. I can't be convinced of that.
And something, though, about that, too, is with Louisiana, our standards are different. So to have vendors that are willing to commit
Modify.
to write for us, Louisiana, that does limit your options,
But
for
there's
sure.
a lot of money in this, and there's
yeah,
got to be
yeah.
more than just 2 companies that would be willing to modify. And I just feel like if this is something that we're gonna pay, that we're gonna use $6 million of taxpayer money for and affect 38,000 students over the course of 6 years, it shouldn't just be a 2-week window that we can go and look at these options. Like, maybe in the future, we could look at, in PLCs, letting our teachers and our administrators actually sit down and over 6 months or whatever, a much bigger time frame, actually dive into these, and then they can really feel like they're making a really good decision. The shipping, that is absurd. I mean, surely there's a way that we can just say, we will hire a freight company for $20,000 because, these are tax dollars at the end of the day, right? We are supposed to spend these as wise as we possibly can. So there has got to be another way that we can explore getting these materials to us that doesn't cost $200,000. Is that something that's possible?
It doesn't ever hurt to ask. I definitely can ask.
Well, can we just say, we'll take care of shipping on our own? Like, we'll figure it out?
Well,
but
not
they're
if
gonna
it's
handle
coming
them
from,
too, remember.
Asia or something,
No,
that would
they're
be
not.
difficult. But,
Wait, what'd you say? Kid, I didn't hear you.
I don't know where it's coming from, but it's definitely a question I could ask. When my husband saw me doing these prices, he's like, I'm gonna go learn how to drive an 18-wheeler.
Right.
You can hire, so I do get that, and I can certainly, I can ask, we can figure out what they would like to say.
That would be
As far
fantastic.
as the window goes, I totally hear what you're saying. A lot of schools did exactly what you said in PLCs. They used that time to do that.
But they still only had 2 weeks, though.
Correct. I didn't get any feedback saying they did not have enough time. I definitely, if I do get that, will consider it. We also were asked to move up our timeline.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, because of being able to order the materials in time to try to get them in teachers' hands before the end of the year.
So start something like this more in the fall than,
Well, the process does start in the fall, so it's a whole thing that even leads up to this, but we can definitely look into starting in the spring to start in the fall type
Yes.
of thing.
thank you.
Okay, it's my turn. So I first want to say thank you for listening, for answering questions, for being willing to consider other things that are being brought to us. And then the second thing, I told Dr. McCurley this as well. I want to make it clear that when we ask questions, or, I mean, I can speak for myself specifically, but it's never because I doubt your ability, your knowledge, your professionalism, or think that I know something you don't. It's not. But to do my job, I just listen to other people. And I hear what they say, and I come to y'all to say it. So I appreciate you listening to that and understanding that it's not me challenging anything. It's just really trying to get information and make suggestions. So with that being said, the process is very flawed, and you were on top of things. I know I went to Brooks, and they only had one for each grade level out. And so I went and talked to the secretary. She said she'd message you. I messaged you that night. You said you were already on it. They would come in Monday morning, but it had already been a week. And so people had gone and seen it, and I'd gotten emails about how terrible it was. And so then you made sure you went there Monday morning, and you made sure it was there, and it was there. And so I'm kudos to you. I understand you can't control everything if they didn't deliver it. With that being said, I had 2 schools reach out to me that did not have a second copy. Told you, you said you'd reach out to them. One of them got it, and the other one still didn't have it. So none of the teachers did the survey because they were furious. And I know that someone told me that they had a digital copy, but you can't present a hard copy of one curriculum that everybody looks at and then says, go look at the digital on this. Most schools had both copies.
Yes.
But the people who were really interested were very frustrated, and it, of course, was like, well, they're obviously trying to push this one. Is a lot of feedback I got from a lot of different people, and I'm like, I don't think so. But really, I looked at both of them, and this was way better, in my opinion, you know? So I agree with the suggestion, but I just feel like teachers don't have buy-in when they're not involved. And so I know that we've advertised it more, and we tried to make it, but that's 2 public places that we went to that didn't have them, and 2 schools in Slidell that didn't get them. And so that's just a really big problem, in my opinion. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that out. I don't know what the answers are. I know we talked about it, but I have teachers texting me saying, we still didn't see it.
Do you want me to address that?
Yes,
real
please
quick?
do.
Okay.
Please.
So with the vendors, I showed you the email that I sent to
Right.
them that they would have everything there. With having new people at our public viewing sites, I was not informed that they
Right.
weren't
Oh,
there.
I know that.
And
That's-
so
I
it
know
was
that.
one of those things that now I have redone my process where I will go
Check
to
with
make
each one.
sure
And I
that
already knew
they
that
are
without you
there.
saying it, because I could tell how you reacted when I told you.
Yeah.
Like, I know that you're on top of it. I just, and
And then
saying
with
this to
other
all the people watching
schools,
that told me.
also in the process I want to change is that it was delivered to the textbook coordinator. I need it delivered to the principal because when they
they're
receive a
responsible.
package and it's delivered to the principal, they will make sure that they get it. I had schools not being able to locate the boxes.
And that's what happened to one of the
And
schools
the
that I
vendor
messaged you about.
had it shown that this person signed, so I'm asking them, look, who has these initials that can find it? So that's something else I
And that
have
makes
changed
sense.
in the
And I
process.
know that was the case for one of the schools I talked to you about, because she messaged me back and said, I'm sorry, they didn't give it to me, somebody else took it. So
Mhm.
I know that was one of them. But and that's only, I didn't go out soliciting these comments, it was just, that came to me.
Yes.
So I think to myself, how many of those had books but didn't see those papers that you said were in the front about the Louisiana? So that caused so much confusion and teachers buzzing when it could have been a simple solution.
Right.
And you probably sent it out in an email. I think maybe Dr. McCurley told me that. I'm not sure. But I just think that that's really important, because then we wouldn't have all the hype that starts. And with us not knowing the answers, you know, it's kind of hard to disseminate. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to reiterate again that our curriculum is following and teaching the standards, and that the textbook adoption is a resource that teachers use to teach the standards. But the teachers are the professional. It's not like a Bible, it's a resource. Because I hear that a lot about the scripted lessons, that they have to do every single thing, and I think that's a big part of teacher retention. So I just want to read, now, principals do have the right to require of individual teachers what they see fit. I understand that. But I just wanted to
But we'll make sure too to reiterate that with our administrators as well.
And just thank you for everything, because I know this is a headache already, and then for everybody to ask you questions about it is worse.
No,
But
that's
thank
my
you
job.
for being gracious and answering.
I appreciate the feedback.
Oh, Mr. Bro. You're up.
Okay. This is a difficult conversation. I was going to wait to the next one for the math to bring it up, but it seems to me, from what I gather, one of these was far superior to the other. That's the feedback I got. From one of the science books, they said it's nothing but a picture book. There's nothing in it, no content. So with that in mind, I'm wondering how good is what they call high-quality education. And when you only have two, you're kind of forced into one because the other one was pretty much garbage. Math was even worse. We got 0 votes on a bunch of them, and this is supposed to be high quality. It's not high quality. It's tier 1 because they call it tier 1 and they evaluated it, but it is not high quality. At some point, we're going to have a difficult decision because what they're doing is they're giving you, oh, well, here's a bunch of garbage curriculum, and here's the one you should take because it somewhat matches the thing. We're back to Common Core. They're pushing the one that you're going to pick because it's the only one that's decent, halfway decent. We need to address this in the future. I know this is a resource, this is not the curriculum, but in some point in the future, we're going to have to address this curriculum. With all due respect to Mr. Javia, I'm sure that the top 10 are using tier 1 because we have to use it, we're forced to. I'm sure if you looked at the bottom 10, they're still using tier 1. It's crap. Excuse me. Some of it is not good.
Mr. Brooks, some of those, what you're referring to as, but some of those, they're not all using Amplify. So some of those.
I know.
the
I'm
higher
not-
performing
I'm not
districts-
attacking
No, but I'm just
Amplify.
saying the one that you're saying was not high quality. There are high performing
Okay,
districts that are
so
using that
you
one
have,
also.
you're given 2 choices and one of them's no good.
Well,
No, they're
they are
saying that
using-
those-
they're
the
not all
ones-
using Amplify.
yeah.
Some of them are using
Okay.
Agile Minds or Activate Learn. They're sporadic.
Well,
So-
it's very difficult to evaluate curriculum because you choose a curriculum today and it's 12 years before it shows up. And then you're going to change it every 3 years. So there's so many variables that you can't really rate a school based on a curriculum. It's certainly a factor. But I'm not convinced that this is not an attempt by Louisiana Department of Education to implement what was once considered Common Core. Thank you.
Ms. Hurstis.
So I guess, and I'm going to just kind of throw this out here because I like to throw things. Who is actually making the decision to make Louisiana so special that we got to get these vendors to make special books for us? Like, who's coming up with this tier 1 and everything? Why is Louisiana so different apparently from all these other states that these vendors have to do this special thing for us?
It's not that we're so special, it's just with some, like Louisiana for science standards is different from the national standards, and our social studies is different too. But as far as our math and that type of thing, that's going to be across the board nationwide as far as those standards.
Well, considering that Louisiana is pretty low on the totem pole with education, shouldn't we kind of go with maybe what the national thing's going on?
Well,
who makes that decision as to, this tier 1 that we have to follow so much?
The Bessie board.
Okay, the Bessie board. So again, let's kind of follow the money. Isn't the company something like Great Minds or something like that?
That is one of the vendors. yes,
That's one
ma'am.
of the vendors. Who's in charge of that company?
I don't know the owner of that company.
We don't know who the chief success officer is of Great Minds?
I personally don't, no,
No.
ma'am.
These are not.
It's not maybe John White, like a state superintendent or something like that?
If you say it is, then I believe you, but I don't know that personally.
So, I'm just wondering why haven't we seen a list of vendors? that could
Ms.
possibly.
Hurst, I think your questions are very valid, and I think that you and I should go, well, maybe you should just go to Bessie and tell them this stuff, because what you're saying makes sense. But unfortunately, Ms. Fuller has absolutely nothing to do
I
with
know,
any of
and I
that.
think really what I'm saying this is, and it might not just be directed to you, but maybe the public needs to know
Right.
that the school board here, you know, isn't quite happy with just giving us two choices. So I think I guess more just want to make a public
And
statement.
I think that's very valid, and I think that, and we also have their email addresses, so I'll give you those, and you can email all those Bessie people.
So where do we get a list of vendors that the state comes up with?
The state website.
The state website, you can Google like Tier 1 and it'll take you right there and it'll show you who has been archived as Tier 1, who is in the review process of possibly becoming Tier 1, and then on the long spreadsheet, it has Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 vendors.
And I thought I read in the policy that we do have like authority to pick.
We do, but there's just all these laws, like about the urgent need of intervention, they have to follow Tier 1 no matter what, so then we would have to
Right.
get other curriculums for other schools, and then if kids switch schools, and so that's how they kind of get us, but we could talk about that, let's just keep going right now, but I definitely think it's good that you made that point, and I definitely think we need to do something about it. I just don't think that we're gonna get anywhere tonight, because there's not the people here that need to.
And that's fine.
I'm glad you made it
But yeah,
public, you know?
public
Yeah.
needs to know.
I agree, good job. Okay, Ms. Rutherford, your turn.
I just have one more thing to say. And I'm doing this because I had some teachers who, messaged me and sent me videos that they couldn't access the video, that they couldn't go onto the site and pull it up because it was blocked. It kept coming up with activatelearning.com saying it was blocked. And they copy and pasted the information for the password and everything for Amplify and could not access it.
If you want, I can pull up the email that I sent out, and all of those links as they were originally sent out all worked. I just checked them again in the first meeting, all of them worked. Now, for the Activate Learning, some of the videos did not pull up on Chrome, but you could have used a different browser, which they all have access to. They pulled up just fine on there.
I think some of them were
That's
on their
technology stuff, yeah.
Chromebooks, and they were doing it on a Chromebook, which Firefox is not on a Chromebook. That was maybe
It is, yeah.
the teachers pulling that up on there.
That was just the videos, but
Right.
the applications were open. Then those
Okay.
block messages that you showed were not
Yeah.
from our systems.
Okay. But
And
it
I
said
would
blocked
encour-
by the client.
Yeah, that's the client, not, our messages come up and say St. Tammany
Right,
Parish.
right. So why were they blocking it so the teachers couldn't see it?
I have no idea. I'm not sure why the person that you're talking about didn't reach out to us, because we could have helped them.
Yeah. Well, they reached out to me, but,
They should have.
But yeah, so all of our teachers know, we have a help desk that is readily available, gets a ticket and help. We also have curriculum specialists, their principals. I did hear from other people that needed help, showed them how to do it.
Ms.
because-
Fuller, thank you so much. You don't even have to keep explaining.
Okay,
And
yeah,
we're very
thank you.
grateful for
All right.
you just bending over backwards and jumping through hoops right now. I feel like bad for you. I really do.
No, I'm
But
like-
you're
Thank you.
amazing, and you definitely have my respect. Okay, can we move on to Ms. Gallagher?
I just have one question, because somebody said something. This is for a 6-year adoption. Is there a possibility that this curriculum could change in 3 years and we just blew $3 million and have to change it again? And what are the ramifications if that happens?
So how that works is they have, you could fall off because if you don't reapply, but they have continued, this is a standing company that has continued to keep up with all the requirements of the copyrights and everything like that to continue to stay Tier 1.
I guess I'm asking if the state decides to
Oh.
change stuff, we are out $3 million in 3 years because we now have to come up with another amount of money, because do we pay this $6 million upfront or do we pay it by year?
So this is the initial, it'll be the upfront, but there is no talk at all of those standards changing. They're set for now,
For
social-
6 years?
Yes.
Okay.
So, well, typically, you would know way in advance, because how they started working on social studies was years ago, and now it has to go through this whole process of review, public comment, so we're gonna be good to go.
So we won't be on the board then.
I feel confident, for sure.
Mr. Green,
I would just like to call the question.
Let's do that.
And I
Let's do that.
second.
Okay, so how do I do that? Tell me how to do that.
We got a motion and
All
a
right, let's
second.
vote.
Well, we got to
I probably didn't even need to do that since I was the last one in the queue,
vote
but
on calling the question.
Okay, would y'all like to vote on calling the question?
Yes.
Everybody in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we called the question. Could you please vote? Thank you.
I don't want to. You're twisting my arm.
Unanimously passed. Okay, moving right on.
Got one more.
Okay, so now, and thank you again, Ms. Fuller. You really did an amazing job. We're gonna try to be gentler here.
What? No, I got it. We're
Thank
good.
you.
All right, so I'm back and we're gonna do high school math. All right. Here we go. So again, we had materials at the public viewing sites and all of our schools that had Algebra 1. So we had our junior highs and high schools. You can see that we had 4 community members at Brooks, 3 at Harrison, 23 parents, and 181 teachers voted. This was the rubric that they used: math content and practice, instructional design, student experiences, and assessments. Let me get to my page. All right, for Algebra 1, Geometry and Algebra 2, Envision by Savis received 91% of the teacher votes. We had 3 people vote for Agile Mind, 81 for Envision, and 5 for Illustrative Math. Algebra 3, we had the Algebra for Algebra Students, Lyle 9th edition with 95% of the votes, 5% for College Algebra and Trig. Pre-Calculus, 55% for Demana Pre-Calculus 10th edition. And the other close one was the Blitzer Pre-Cal 7th edition at 33%. For Calculus, with 78%, Demana AP Calculus, Graphical, Numerical, and Algebraic 6th edition received the majority of the vote. Probability and Statistics, Stats Modeling the World AP 6th edition received 62% of the votes, with Elementary Statistics at 38%. Business Math and Financial Literacy, 67% for Business Mathematics. The other 3 received 11%. Here is the breakdown of the cost for the recommended instructional materials. With the Envision, they will have the student and teacher digital access, student consumable workbooks. They will have diagnostic and performance assessment, adaptive technology for progress monitoring of students, virtual videos for struggling learners and parents, remediation and enrichment opportunities, extensive data reports by student, class, school, and district. So the shipping for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 will be at 3.5%. Estimated shipping cost is $34,435.27. Upper level instructional materials, the shipping will be at 10%, which is $61,131.75. And I will negotiate that shipping. So a total would be $1,670,224.98. Based on majority of teacher votes, we recommend the adoption of these textbooks.
I'll second.
Well, there you go. Y'all don't need me. Do your thing. Ms. Fuller, I think that you're going to be a professional negotiator. Do not leave us to go to go make more money somewhere else. Okay, do we have any, y'all got that right? Who? Okay, any public comments? You can if you want to. Any board questions? All right, there we go. Oh, nope, can't do it. He's messing. Ms. Rufino Gallagher, your turn.
You said 181 teachers voted. Out of
Yes.
how many?
So that was hard to tell as far as, because it's more votes than we had actual teachers. Because people, if they taught Algebra 1 and geometry, they voted, excuse me, not those. Algebra 1, let's say they taught Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, or Algebra 3, then they voted for the Algebra 1, Algebra 2 here, and Algebra 3 here. And so it was overall, if we're just looking at Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, it was 91% of the teachers participated in that, 100% for our others.
Okay, and these are also do not have a textbook, like a hard
These
copy.
do, these have.
Okay, and the only reason I keep asking this, because I've subbed for math before, and the kids don't ever take that book home, and they rarely use it in the classroom. So that's a lot of money to spend on a book that's virtual, and 90%, let me not say 90%, a lot of teachers depend on that Chromebook and virtually. So that's a lot of money to spend on a textbook that's, because the teachers sometimes in the classes are like, no, you can't take that book home.
I'm glad you brought that up. So what we want to do, especially for those upper level math courses, we want to make sure, are we wanting to do a class set? Are we wanting just digital access? I don't want it to be fully digital access because you have learners that learn better from a textbook. So I want to have options, but for me just to order, let's say 345 books, that won't necessarily happen. That's the projected numbers, but we could possibly, depending on the needs of the school, do class sets if
We
necessary.
just have to remember, our students' exceptionalities have to have, they
Yes.
must have one available if they ask for it. So
Yeah.
we have to have.
Well,
it
we want to
available.
have them at all
Yes,
schools
right.
available.
But when you say a class set, we'll say North Shore High School, there's 5 different math classes. So are you talking
Not
about the set
for-
for the teacher?
Yeah, not for necessarily upper level math courses. So like when you have calculus, you might only have 3 sections of that. And so depending on the need of the teacher and the students, then we can purchase one for every single student or a class set if they're going to access the digital mostly at home, but they would have extras there in case they did want to take one home.
So that would just fluctuate by school based on what the teacher's
The needs.
recommendations are at their school? Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you take that into consideration.
She didn't buzz in, so yeah, I'm keep going. Yeah, hold on, sister. All right, this is my first time. Give me my, okay. Okay, yeah. Let's vote, please. Just say, like, what? And it passed unanimously. It passes. We can fix it.
You can change it, go in the corner.
You say yes?
I got it, I got
Okay.
it, I got it.
It passes unanimously. Thank you again, Ms. Fuller. We really appreciate you. Okay. Staff, you may leave finally. Be safe driving home, and we're getting ready to do public comments. Hmm? Who's first? And Mr. Osborne, you can make your way up.
Where did you get those? The jerky? You did? I didn't see any, I was bringing them. If they have jerky, I didn't see them.
I don't think there's jerky left.
Okay, and they eat all my damn Milanos. I gotta get out up here. As soon as I come next time. A little sneaky. I know, I just finished my bottle.
Okay, Mr. Osborne, thank you for your patience. Okay, we're ready for public comments. Board, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Lammy, and congratulations on wielding the gavel for the first time. Lots of rich discussion tonight, but I'm going to be stubborn and stick to my speech. But those shipping and handling costs got to me. It makes me want to call some Teamsters to lean on those textbook companies. But I digress. At least for the next hour, today is Groundhog's Day. This holiday is more of a northern observance, but it does bring to mind the classic Bill Murray comedy. in which a cynical weatherman is forced to repeat the same day over and over again. Through the process of being freed from his personal time warp, he grows as an individual and learns to embrace the town he once scorned. The film's director was Bill Murray's friend and fellow Ghostbuster, Howard Ramis. The two reportedly feuded bitterly during the filming of Groundhog Day, as Murray wanted to focus on the serious existential aspects of his character, while Ramis wanted to focus on the comedic aspects of the plot. Many critics lauded the philosophical messages intertwined with the comedy, so it seemed like the actor and director seemed to find a happy medium in the end. The film went on to be a financial hit and remains one of the most popular comedies of all time. Unfortunately, the bitter rift between the two men ended their friendship. Murray didn't speak to Ramis until 2014 when he was on his deathbed. That's a shame, but better late than never, I suppose. So what are the takeaways? Philosophically, I think it's best not to continue to repeat patterns of behavior that aren't productive and that lead to complacency or failure. On a personal and related note, a lot of people in this room have helped to develop me as a leader, both behind me and in front of me, and whether you knew it or not. Thankfully, the board's current public comments policy doesn't permit group therapy, so I'm just going to move on. Another takeaway for me is I also think it's best to maintain one's humor even in grim times and against all odds. And these are certainly the best of times and the worst of times in St. Tammany Parish. Finally, you don't necessarily have to be friends to achieve great outcomes, but wouldn't it be a shame if we let bitterness divide us? Thank you, and good night, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Ms. Sharp?
Barbara Sharp, bus driver. I'm commenting on an incident that started in September with unacceptable behavior on a school bus. The driver wrote behavior reports 2 weeks apart, and the driver was assured that the change would be fast-tracked because the mom agreed. Then the driver was told it's a process. As the behavior continued, this behavior progressed and resulted in, as of 2 weeks ago, the frustrated driver finally receiving outside intervention. The child was changed to a SWE bus the next day. Appropriate, timely actions were not taken. These types of incidents are reasons that the school system is losing staff in all areas. The shortage of drivers and the lack of sufficient sub-drivers to cover the shortages has contributed to the increased incidence of violence and disruptions on buses. So we have 8 people in the possible class of hirees, maybe, training coming up, a new training coming up. Some questions that you might want to ask is how many have actually been hired? How many are still employed of this number? What is the retention rate over the last 2 years of drivers? Other signs, other than signs on the back of the school system-owned buses, what methods are being used to attract applicants for school bus drivers? What is the ratio of hires to retirees resigns? Here I suggest you ask actual numbers and maybe compare those to the Human Resource Monthly reports. I would also suggest that someone look at the transportation long-term plan, maybe if there is one. Good night, thanks, and I appreciate all y'all's interactions. It was great to see.
Thank you. It was great to see you too. We're so happy you're here. President announcements. Oh, wrong.
There's one on board docs.
At this late date, I don't have any announcements. Only to say that we're going to have a meeting next Thursday in Brooks and Slidell. Oh, and Mardi Gras is coming up, so everybody have a happy Mardi Gras.
Be safe. Good night. Meeting is adjourned.